Are we missing anybody's stuff?
I'd rather been at the meeting.
Mike says he's gonna be a little.
No. Oh, yeah, yeah, that 9.
Yes.
Yes, that's the first thing in life.
I threw my back out on Monday, so adjusting my chair.
All right. Good evening, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and call this work session to order. I think we've got, we're gonna do 2 separate roles, one for city council, one for planning commission. So, Glenda, if you'd like to start with city council.
Mr. Theron,
Here.
Mrs. Feedback,
Here.
Mr. Grant, Mr. Delgado,
Here.
Mr. Savage.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum present for the city council.
Okay. And Mr. Grant said he would be here a little bit late, so since we have a quorum, we can just leave it at that. Okay, Amy, go ahead.
Mr. Aravallo.
Here.
Mr. Morse,
Here.
Mr. Earhart,
Here.
Ms. Squire,
Here.
Mr. Sly,
Here.
Ms. Dobson, Mr. Mitchell,
Here.
Ms. Crevier.
Here.
We have a quorum for the planning commission.
All right. Got a full house here tonight. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We haven't really done, I've been around for, 4 years now, and we haven't ever done one of these. And so when I brought it up, everybody seemed pretty excited about it. So I think it'd be good for the governing body and the planning commission to kind of all figure out where, things that our governing body is really wanting to get accomplished over the next year or two, and things that I'd like to get accomplished, and then kind of how it'll work through you and all that kind of stuff. And then really feedback from you all about how, that process works, or, things like that. I know we have a couple newer, maybe one newer planning commission. Everybody else has been around for a while. So I think, we'll talk a little bit up here. We have more newer people up here than we do in planning commission. So, figuring out where everybody lands and what we look at, what you guys look at, and so on and so forth. So, first, item up is the comprehensive plan, that thing that's been haunting us for a couple of years now. And that was one of my first things that I really wanted to kind of jump onto. And I'm probably going to let Ian jump in right away. I know I gave him a tough task to try to get this completed by June 1st. I didn't really, we got a long ways into it, and then it kind of just died. So he's going to jump in and kind of talk about where we're at and what we need to do still, and then kind of go from there about your all's feedback, and then what we are kind of thinking too. So, Ian, take it away.
Yeah. Hello. If you have met me, I am Ian Trufford. I'm the city planner here. I started here back in October. If you have not, nice to meet you. I'm probably gonna have to hop up there to swap over the laptop screen. So, is that connected up right now?
We need this up.
Oh, do we? Okay. All right. Well, in that case, let's see.
Just describe yourself.
Just describe it? Okay. Well, it's more of a map. So I'll try to describe it. So this is the future land use map that you're probably familiar with from the first few rounds of discussion regarding the comprehensive plan. And the primary focus that we're looking at going forward is some hesitation about what the land uses will look like out towards the east. In the comp plan draft that was provided to you, it shows a lot of emphasis on commercial running along my brain's plugging. Sorry?
Railroads.
Yeah, well, along railroads, and then also the east-west thoroughfare, specifically 199. One of the big things that we want to kind of acknowledge and incorporate into a future draft of the comp plan are the utilities that are available in the area. So switching over to this map, it's going to be kind of hard to see from a distance, but this is a site that's located, or an area that's located around Flum specifically. You have 199th running east-west, Flum north-south. And what you can kind of see here are major gas lines that run north-south. This is a transcontinental gas line, as well as high-voltage power lines that run east-west. These are major utilities that are of significant value to heavier commercial and industrial users, and are something that is kind of sparse and hard to come by. So taking full advantage of that is something that we want to be able to prioritize, because it's something that our city has that a lot of other communities do not. And it's something that we can't really invest in because it has to be done by third parties, major utility providers. So one of the big things kind of going forward, we don't have any draft plans at this moment. We're kind of having internal discussions about how we want to proceed. But looking at how land uses are laid out in the comp plan, notably how commercial may be centered around more nodes instead of kind of a straight long road. In most communities, when you look at comp plans and land uses, they don't extend out like this. You typically have gradients of land use intensity stepping back from major arterials. So this idea of having just commercial specifically all the way through, jumping down straight to residential, it's not very common. Also, the way that it doesn't have any levels of intensity in residential land use, it's kind of atypical for comp plans. So really what we're going to be looking at is how land uses are arranged down 199th, as well as what land uses are available in the comp plan and how we look at land uses, generally speaking, when it comes to how comp plans function. I know that was kind of a lot right out the gate, but this is an ongoing conversation internally, and we'll be engaging both City Council and Planning Commission as we go along. I'll be working along with Mike, our new Community Development Director, along with that. So, yeah.
So was this the land use map created by the company that was hired to help with the previous comp plan?
That's correct. This is the draft that was provided to us by them.
And then is this the one that goes all the way around Hillsdale Lake?
Yes, this is, let me zoom this out. It is quite a significant
Are you
area.
thinking to reduce the scope of that, or do you want to keep that size, that footprint?
I think that's something that we need to probably talk about. I can't say for certain right now. Certainly our focus internally as staff will be in the areas that are going to be more immediately ready for development, which will be out to the east. But that's kind of a policy decision that's going to get involved with more stakeholders than just us.
Discussions that we've had over the last year and a half regarding to that comp plan by the planning commission is really to bring the scope of it down more manageable area, mainly because part of what the consultant put together seemed to be more, and plus other discussions that we had, seemed to be more of a 100-year plan rather than a 10-year plan.
So one of the important things to consider is that comp plans are not immutable. They change.
I
over
know,
time. So
I've done complaints before. It's
yeah,
not
sure. So I
new to the
think
game.
just with that, while there may be a broader scope of where we start with a comp plan, it's going to change over time. That's to be expected. So certainly, it's never going to be it's a 100-year plan in theory, but it's never in practice.
Well, no, it can't be, because there's a lot of things that change.
That you can't.
For example, on the draft of some of the material that we've already put together, and I don't know whether you've seen it, it suggests that the city's going to be at 10,000 in 2028. Well, we're already at 10,000.
Yeah, and that's why revisiting these on a regular basis, that's a big part of it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I would say my opinion on it is I think we need to have at least a loose plan further out, and then as it gets tighter, it gets more and more specific. So I do like how, if you look, I started looking more into this in the last couple of weeks, but Olathe does a good job of just saying employment areas. So I think as we get further out, we make it very broad use as far as that goes, but I think really looking at the utilities, and I wish, 10, 15 years ago we would have done that, because Foxwood Ranch is right in an area where, Foxwood Ranch, that's an area that probably should be commercial because it has the huge 325 lines going through it. Dayton Creek also has that. So we have two neighborhoods now that in this very high intense, electrical field, I know people talk about walking underneath them and they can feel the electricity, So we need to be, cognizant of that. I think that's one thing that we really need to look at. And I had never really seen that before, especially even the gas lines, thinking, oh, wow, what industry can go here? And as we figure out the different zonings that we're going to go to, and I know Ian's been working on that, that's going to be a big piece too. But here we talk about land use. Like I said, I do think we need to probably prioritize being specific closer to our actual home now, but we do need to have a vague plan further out, all the way probably to 69 Highway and whatever's still open out to I-35 and down to 68. I mean, to be quite honest, yeah.
You need to have a sense of where you're going to go,
Yeah.
but immediately.
Yeah, immediately we need to be,
already what you
yeah,
need to do and what's going to be planted.
yeah,
Because I think part of the issue, and you brought that up, is that we put a lot of things a lot of places. That wasn't a good idea.
yeah.
Well,
Had not worked out.
Foxwood went through several
revisions,
Mm-hmm.
multiple revisions, and it's way different than what it was when it first came out.
Well, that was just an example
No,
of
right.
an area that has really high-end utility use
It
that,
absolutely does.
you know, and I know we looked there at houses, and that was the one where like we don't want to be that close to this big electrical line. So I do agree that we need to really be specific, probably closer, and maybe tonight we can kind of talk more about what we think that is. But I do think we need to probably look all the way out. You know, I mean, we're going to have a sewer line out to Bucyrus here shortly, right? So we need to look at least that far east, if not further, or at least a general plan of what we want to do. And then west, there's just all that room west that, although it's small to get there, there's a lot of ways that we could go west and obviously south. So, Lane, what do you?
And I may throw a little bit in there. The reason that it's so large is partly due to the sewer area that we can serve in the future. So part of what KDHE and the Corps of Engineers is looking at right now is trying to reduce the amount of effluent that goes into Hillsdale Lake. And with limited number of lift stations on the west side of Hillsdale Lake, or Edgerton being able to go down further south, or Gardner, then that area becomes within our service area potentially for sewers. So that's one of the reasons that we go down to 68 Highway west of Hillsdale Lake, is because that's all potentially serviceable by sewer to us or through another community that ends up pumping it back to us.
And that's one reason we purchased that land so far south for the wastewater treatment plant, because really Hillsdale is just becoming a place that can't really service much anymore. And Johnson County wastewater can't really get further south, and so we're really the only thing south that can handle all of that. The other communities haven't decided to put any infrastructure cost into that, or, you know, any investment into that. So that's one thing that we have a leg up on kind of all our neighbors at this point.
Ian, how much do we have to go back and revamp from what our consultant did? I mean,
I had that question too. Are we starting over?
are we
Make it
Are we
good.
able to take that and use it, or do we need to go back and start where Josh took us to begin with?
I think it's hard to say at this point. I think we're just kind of getting a handle on what was done and what we can work with. I think we'll have a clearer picture of that in the coming weeks, but right now it's hard to say for certain. Certainly, we're going to do our best to use whatever we can.
And that was a bit of a curveball here recently, that we found out that there may be some and some not that we can use. And so figuring out what it is that we can move forward with and then tweaking it the way we want. Now having our planner is going to help. Mike has a lot of experience in this too, so having two people coming in that have dealt with this before is going to be helpful in-house compared to having to use a full-time outsourcing firm to do it. That changed people constantly. So that piece is, you know, this is kind of a point where we're trying to figure out how we can move forward, and so that's not just an install.
I know there were several pieces of it that planning commissioners were not pleased with. That
Yeah.
we were wanting something different.
So have you had a chance to look at the 6 chapters of the plan?
I've skimmed through all of it, and that's where we basically said, let's take what we have and try to revamp it and do it the right way. Because to me, it didn't really look right.
A lot
Yeah.
of it is boilerplate,
Yeah.
but there are some,
There's some good pieces that I know you guys have gone through. I don't think we addressed the utilities enough in the first round. And to me, that was a bigger piece that we needed to go back and look at. Because as we're talking to economic development people that come in, or, you know, developers for these industrial sites or different types of commercial businesses, they have specific needs. And over the years, I've dealt with it in my business life and never really thought too much about it, because they're like, oh, I got to pay this much to upgrade my electrical lines. And now I'm looking at it through the city side, and I'm like, oh, wow, we have these things that can be really beneficial and really cost prohibitive for a lot of big companies to come in if they don't have these utilities, and we have them. So, you know, let's take advantage of that and make sure we do it strategically and be smart and bring in the right companies, because we can be a little bit picky. So.
yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why we had a number of discussions about where we saw industrial and commercial pieces or strips, if you will,
Yeah.
and where you wanted what type of housing you wanted in different areas, so that we could have a more compact and more controlled growth direction.
Well, and that's where Ian comes into play, because he can go through, and that's what him and I talked about, was just, it's not gonna be a straight line like we've always looked at before. We always looked at, 169, all that's M1, right? Is that really appropriate everywhere? And it's probably not. That one's appropriate because it has a rail all the way down. But when we go east, we don't necessarily have that. That line goes diagonal. That comes in, it starts up at, 199th probably, and then starts to cut down. So how do we affect that? And then once you hit Flum, it's pretty much just straight east, right? So, that's just stuff we got to look at, and then see how we want to have that flower bloom from there. So do we want, maybe lighter industrial before we get to residential, or do we just put higher density residential there because that's more affordable, things like that, so.
I have a question. So you said they're high voltage lines. Are they accessible at any point along there, or are there only certain points where you can access them?
I think I can't speak to specifics with how development functions, but I know that the transformer stations are going to be the primary hubs of that. And specifically related to the site that I had pulled up, there is a transformer station there. So just kind of like looking at where it'd be a prime opportunity for that sort of high usage business or, use, it would be there.
So how many transformer stations are there along that route?
I can't speak to that specifically.
Lane, do you know off the top of your head?
There's about 3 or 4, depending on,
Yeah.
Span from 69 Highway west of us, and then down by Bucyrus, there's probably about 3 to 4 total.
Yeah, I know going east, there's a few.
Yeah, there's a 345 kV line, which is a main transmission line. There's a 161 kV, and there's a 115 line that goes to different areas. They split off and go to different substations.
So one concern I would have or thought about that is, since I live pretty close to a lot of the growing M1, in Spring Hill, is if we start to bring industrial uses more into what I would consider like more of the interior, further from the highway, I'd like us to kind of contemplate, I think you just said it, but, maybe more of a light industrial zoning, because we've talked about that. And then we can contemplate what uses would be appropriate for that. And I think that's something we should really consider. So where we think there might be residential abutting some of these new industrial uses, let's think about the type of industry that would be more compatible, even mixed use or high density, that's all fine, but where it'll make sense to those residential developers in the future. And we don't instead block it all off as, whatever. I'm not gonna name any names.
Yeah.
Of types of industries, but heavy use.
Well, and that's where, you're definitely going to get heavy use off those 325 lines. So it's going to be your
You think?
really heavy manufacturing, and that's, so stuff like that. So that's where, from there we decide, okay, from there that's where we can be more specific. All right, from here we're going to do our new M line, whatever that's going to be, if it's lighter industrial around it, and then we kind of move our way down. Even maybe overlays where it could be, a light industrial, but also C2, so that if people want to put some sort of shopping center in, they can. So it's not, stuck with just one particular use. I think overlays are probably going to be important in those areas. That's where the land use is probably better than strict zoning. Picking strict zoning for those areas is going to be more, it needs to be in one of these 2 categories or 3 categories. And so as we decide how many we're going to have, are we going to have M1, 2, and 3, or just M1 and 2, and then, what can they overlay? Because I think we write all that in at the same time, don't we? When we write in our overlays, typically these type of zonings can overlay each other, and so I think we just need to be cognizant of that stuff when we do it.
Mayor, if we wanted to, we could probably bring up our near miss.
Yeah, no, go for it.
So, we're gonna back up about a year ago, we had a project that we were working on, and some of you may already be aware of this.
Yeah, go to the mic here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wireless, if you want to hold it.
Oh, I think, can you hear me now? So this is kind of an exciting thing. About a year ago, a little over a year ago now, we submitted it for an economic development project. That project was with I believe a Fortune 100 company. It was going to be the largest economic development project in the state's history. It was about a $6 billion project. There were 350 some sites throughout the nation. We made it down to the final three, maybe four, depending on how you look at it. One went to Houston, one went to Virginia, and I think the last one was Virginia, the other was Huntsville, Alabama. When we are competitive at that level, we have some sites that are very user-friendly, especially up around 175th Street along these electrical lines. The cost for the company to move, 3 or 4 or 5 miles of 161 line is in the tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's very important to at least have consideration for that. This company, I'll go ahead and say it, it's Eli Lilly. We were very close to having a company with about 500 jobs, paying on an average of about $115,000 a year salary. We were that close. And that's one of the things that's kind of prompted having this discussion of we have to be very selective on the sites that we have left that are remaining. With rail access, these companies are very specific. They give you a checklist and you have to hit them. They may want electrical, they may want water, they may want wastewater. And if you don't meet those, they're gone at this level. But anyway, it was a very positive process. It was a very stressful process for staff. Staff did a great job. We knocked out some big cities. Wichita was on the line. They got kicked out well before us, and we made it down to the final three. But I think the important thing about this is having these discussions, because we do have some assets that in Johnson County, there's no other sites that have 200 and some acres outside of DeSoto. And we've got a couple of those sites right here along 175th Street and 169 Highway. And as we go east along that electric line, there's more sites. When we get out around Bucyrus, there's another railway out there. There's another major corridor with 69 Highway. So there's a lot of things that are positive that we have as a community that cities to our north don't have, because we have the land availability and the ability to have that vision to look out and where do we put a sewer main to try to attract companies like this. I know we've been very involved with Department of Commerce, and we intend to keep doing that. But I just wanted to point that out as a prime example of when we're talking about these things, we're really trying to look at where best to put that. And I agree with you 100% is, I don't know how we phrase it, but we want the right industry in the right spot. What do we want the community to be like in the next 20 years?
And Lane, I love what you're saying too, because you're talking about creating a vision for what we want, and then ideally going out and soliciting that. Yep. And trying to find that and bring it in, rather than just what I think we've done historically is just respond to whatever shows up. And so then you kind of end up with patchwork of different types of industries and development.
Well, and that was when we had such a stall on growth back in the early 10s, right? That you kind of had to be. You kind of had to take what was coming just to stay afloat. We were struggling with budget. I mean, you look back at the budgets from back then, it was a nightmare. And so we're at a place now where we're in a good spot where we can be a little bit more choosy.
Yeah.
We're being a little bit more strict on the developers. And that's what we want to be going forward. But we also don't want to strangle ourselves. We don't want to get landlocked by the other cities that are trying to do kind of the same stuff we are, right? They're looking at the same land we are. We're talking to landowners out in those areas. And we want to be as attractive, but also picky as we can be.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's important too, is and this has come up in the past, which is, we don't want to be known as the city that will just lay down for whatever the developer wants. I'm glad to hear that. And we want to be competitive, but at the same time, we want to have standards.
Yeah.
And I think the governing body's been very good about being strategic. We're doing a northeast sewer expansion right now that opens up. There's 260 acres that the site Lilly was looking at. To the north of that, north of 175th, there's about 220 acres. Both have rail access, both have really good water, electric, substations right there. There's a lot of positives to that. It's within a couple miles of I-35. It's within the 45 minutes to an hour of airports. It's actually within about, I can't remember how many airports, 3 or 4 airports are within. You know, Gardner has New Century, and then they've got another airport, and then you've got Johns County Exec. So strategically, it's very well located. And as we stretch to 69 Highway or over to Bucyrus, we have to be very strategic in how we do that. Because that's gonna open up another 6-8 miles. I mean, basically the state line. You put 1 or 2 lift stations out there and it'll service that whole area.
It's not a fun topic, but sewer is king,
It is.
unfortunately, right? It's something that we talk about and people are like, why are you always talking about sewer? Well, unfortunately, everybody has to flush a toilet. Everybody has to get their dirty water somewhere. And stormwater's the same way, right? So it's great until it comes back up in your house. And so what we don't want is to have any of this industry come in and we're not ready for it. And then we have lack of services to the actual homeowners and people who live here. So we're trying to get ahead of that and make sure we're in the right spot.
Ian, are you a GIS shapefile guy?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a lot of that information along the utility corridor that we can start to like prioritize some of these sites along the utility corridor through those shapefiles and see like what's available? Because I think for our group it sounds like a great idea, but then like we get really boiled down into the nuts and bolts of like each little site. Whereas if you're a GIS guru and you can start loading the shapefiles and start setting the parameters you're looking for, you can start to pull that for us. If we identify that corridor, we have this utility corridor, and start to identify where this is, what are top priority sites, and then it's a lot easier for our group to kind of react to.
Yeah, that's something that I've been in conversation with Johnson County specifically. I've been trying to get in touch with Miami County as well to get their layers for utilities. In terms of the practicality of being able to pick out and do site selection in that way, I think it's something that we can look at. Part of the issue is, you know, we can identify the sites that have intersecting opportunities for utilities, right? How that actually looks like to developers and potential users of those sites, it's a little bit outside the scope of what we can know. But yeah, certainly as part of the comp plan revision process, we'll be looking at opportunity nodes, opportunity sites, areas that we think and we kind of predict development to be, you know, have pressure towards, and we'll incorporate that information.
So because we started identifying nodes as well.
Yeah.
Is that like, are you going back and re-identifying nodes, or I mean, I guess I'm kind of lost where we're at in this process of the restart, reboot. Like, are we going all the way back to like identifying nodes and overlay districts and? Because the utility information is wonderful. I mean, that is the driver of everything. But honestly, I don't think we were really going off any utility information.
Yeah, when I looked back, I couldn't find any times that was talked about.
Well, I mean, we were really drawing a frame in the sky at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the rail spurs.
That's the only thing I ever heard talk about, yeah.
Sewers, we never had anything mapped to, again, really react to. And I think if we had a utility corridor and like a set buffer of like, you know, look at an area within this area, this is a prime area. Are you okay with these areas, you know, for developers looking at? Because we might hit an area that's really a commercial node and we're like, oh, I don't know if we want this commercial node to be, you know, an industrial node. Maybe we do, but we don't know where those areas are.
Are you guys apprised of where the sewer lines are going in that we're working on right now?
No.
So do you want to explain, Lane, where those are going to go through? Just because that's a big piece of it too. We've already kind of identified and we've started working on them and actually, you know.
So we have 3 projects going right now outside of the Bucyrus Sewer Project. So north, I'll start up at 175th Street. It's called the Northeast Sewer Expansion. It's basically east of Woodland Road, kind of splits the property line about a quarter mile east of there. It goes straight south. It goes down to roughly about 191st Street. That's going to bring in the old Carvana site. Those properties that are up there around 175th Street, it'll serve those all the way down to basically it'll stop there at 183rd Street because it'll be a force main after that. On the west side of the highway, where Nottington
Creek.
we've worked out a deal with Johnson County Wastewater to take over their system. So we will be servicing just from the southwest corner at Nottington Creek. We'll be picking up JCW's line there and taking that all the way down to 191st Street, and then using a force main to bring that back into our system. And that'll bring open basically areas around Hedge, everything south of 175th on the west side of the 169 highway should be able to be serviced by that, basically over to about Hedge. Some of the properties on the west side of Hedge will be able to be serviced by that. So that opens up another large area for us, whether it's, industrial or residential, or that's yet to be seen. But that area does seem to be trending towards,
Highly prospected right now.
yes, very highly prospected by industrial. So,
And I think what we have to look at is, do we want it to be us or do we want it to be Olathe, like with Lineage, where we don't have any say in what happens there? And so that's why we made the decision to go ahead and get with Johnson County Wastewater and come south with it, because if we control that, that's gonna help us control some of that development over there to make sure we're not having anything too crazy, but also that we reap the benefits of them too.
So my question with that would then be, and I don't know if this would be a now discussion or not, but is there any discussion with expanding roads or the infrastructure over there
Yes.
to accommodate for things like
It-
that?
that typically, when the developer comes in, we have those discussions. We have a term sheet, we work with our bond counsel, and we come up with a development agreement. So yes, if there was a major, whether it's warehousing or whatever go in there, we would work with the developer to expand the roads, probably go curb and gutter, and then depending on how far south, we typically try to get them to do their property lines. So if there's a half mile by half mile, then they'd be responsible for upgrading those roads.
I've just noticed surrounding cities and sometimes Spring Hill, it seems to put the cart before the horse with the infrastructure portion, and so I just wanted to make sure that that's definitely being considered before it gets to where people are in here saying, hey, semis are driving down my roads and we don't want them. And
The hard part about the infrastructure piece is where we live. When we put it in, you get 5 to 10 years, no matter if people use it or not. And so we're paying for all of this infrastructure, and that doesn't get used because it doesn't get developed, and we're still having to maintain it as if it's being used daily by big trucks just because of the weather. So it's tough to go out and spend the money to get it all ready to go beforehand. And that's been a struggle anywhere I've lived over my last 40 years. And I feel like that's always been the complaint, but I think it's across the country, depending on where you live. So we have to manage that properly, but it's never gonna be perfect because it is gonna have to come with the development rather than before it.
The last sewer main that we're looking at is on North Webster, north of the glass plant. We're anticipating that project, I don't think it's come to you
It
guys.
hasn't come to here yet.
It hasn't come yet, but it will be. We're working to do a sewer main there. That'll be able to open up that property to the north of the glass plant. Yep.
So with all three of those, as you can tell, now that we have that information, and we didn't have that last year, right? This is all stuff in the last 6 to 12 months. Lily really kicked us into gear, having to figure some of this stuff out. And now that we can say it, it's nice, because for a long time we're like, why the heck are you guys doing all this stuff? And we're like, well, I can't really talk about it, right? It's like the Chiefs situation where it's like, people feel like they're being held behind the gate, but there's parameters of what we have to stay within too. So now that's why we want to get that information in front of you so that you all can make decisions so that we can move this process forward rather than be stuck where we're at, Anyone else? I know, Steve, you've been around for a while. Troy, you guys have anything else you want to add? Questions?
The only thing that I would add to it is that on the planning commission, we get a lot of public comment coming in, and they don't see the bigger picture. They just see what their neighborhood is.
Yeah.
And we have to, as our role as the planning commission, is to look at much bigger than just what the road is in front of their neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that's why I would encourage us to make sure that we're continuing to do that, especially if we're gonna be talking about down 199th Street. We've kind of pushed away from going that direction with the bigger trucks and things like that. But from what you're talking about that's exactly what's gonna go there.
And that's where, that's going to be a different discussion, right? How do we redirect that traffic, those type of things? And we talked about that with sites that are getting looked at out there is, okay, how do we redirect traffic through construction periods for permanent, all that kind of stuff. So we will have to work with the counties and depending on what happens. But I think one thing that happens is we do get siloed and we think about that particular project on its own rather than everything that's happening. And sometimes we don't think, is this good long-term and help us get to those road improvements that we need? Because a lot of times there'll be something that comes through, you're like, well, the road can't handle it. Well, once that moves forward, something else may come down the road, down the pipe, that's waiting for that to happen. Then we can finish up the road improvement that we need there. So that's where a lot of times that's what for us to figure out, and you all just, I think knowing the bigger picture is going to make it easier for you all to make your decisions as things come through, And that's one thing that I think is good about us meeting together, because how hard, we're never going to be able to get all of us together in a room outside of this to be able to say, oh, well, this is happening. Oh, wait, I forgot PJ brought up this, because, so on and so forth. Any other thing on the comp plan so we can move on? I know we're already at 6:40, so
I
go
just
for
wanted
it.
to establish something really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So right now, as it stands, you guys don't have access to any utility layouts, any maps showing what the city has as assets currently at all.
I don't.
There's no one with access to Ames or with any of those other programs that.
But like on the Ames public site, a lot of that is kind of critical infrastructure that
Right.
you don't want to publish.
Yeah. Yeah, we see a lot of it
So
through.
what can we do to remedy that so they can make informed decisions?
I don't know if
on the
like
comp plan?
next workshop, if we can maybe have a printout. I know why that's sensitive material, but
Right.
if we could have a printout that we could put eyes on and start having more of a conversation. This is a hot spot. This is a hot spot. This is a sensitive area. Everyone's really upset about this. I think that gave us a little.
I think that's good.
That's good. I made the mistake of I wanted this to be streamed, so therefore they can't access. I was going to try to get up on the TVs, but you can't do both at the same time. So we'll try to get print next time too. That was my fault. I wanted to make sure it was streamed, so we can't kind of do with our technology right now. We can't do both of those things.
Back we used to have a map-a-thon,
Mhm.
and I had asked if we could bring in a map and put it back on the wall, and then have the overlays of where we have already zoned what and what is there, to where you were just having the onion sheets like what we had been drawing on.
Yeah.
To where when something came in, we could actually visualize it, not the sensitive stuff that's coming, but what we already have.
Right.
And
I don't think that's a bad idea. I don't know if that's something you can put together that we can, how much public that can be, but
Yeah,
I'm sure most of it can be public.
Yeah,
I mean, it would be
Yeah.
public because it's what we got.
Well, I'm talking about, I'd even like to see it with the utilities and everything, so different layers of it.
I feel like access to that information is crucial for what you guys do, and it seems crazy to me that that's
Yeah.
not a standard that's already been set.
Yeah, it just isn't something we've ever looked at before.
I feel like there's so much we don't know, cause like you were saying, like,
Right.
Yeah,
where Foxwood is, like, we don't know that that's a hot spot, like,
Yeah.
we don't know that that's where commercial or industrial should go, so we're like, yeah, looks good, nothing else
Yeah.
out there's by school, yeah, put it in, and so, yeah, I agree.
well, and that's where in the past, like I said, we were all reactive, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And this is where I want to throw a good plug in for the staff. One of the things that when I came here, I wanted to do was bring the right people into the right spots. Now we have, Ian, we have Mike, Allison, Jacob, Chief, Rhonda, I know I'm gonna forget somebody, Glenda, she's, Amy.
And so, but before, just to say that, Amy was wearing most of those hats for a while.
Yeah.
So that was half the problem, right?
So, and that's the reason why. These individuals have a wealth of knowledge and experience and years of institutional knowledge in other areas. And with us growing, we're not planning for 15,000 population. We're looking 20, 30 years out. This year, to give you an idea, we had 283 single-family homes go in. Just roughly, if you round up 300 homes times 3 people, that's about 900 people a year. You can do the math. By 2040, we're not 11,000 anymore. When we expand that sewer main out to Bucyrus, that opens up another whole territory and growth zone for us. In order to do that appropriately, we need a planner. We need Mike, we need Amy, we need Allison, we need finance. All these people have to come together to make that happen. And I think we've got a really good team. Lean on them I lean on them every day. We've got a great governing body. Like, the planning commission is great, but lean on them and ask questions. And sometimes I hate this because sometimes we can't give that information out, especially when we're under an NDA, things like that. For us to get into Ames, they have to give us access to it, and it's limited access for that, for those critical things, but we can definitely show you areas where it's at to help out with that. But we have a great staff that has a great pedigree behind them, and I'm hoping that that really helps everybody understand what we need to do and how to get there. I think I've said from the very beginning, you know, Spring Hill is one of these towns that doesn't really have an identity. What do we want to be when we grow up? You know, what is that? And every single one of us probably has a different idea, but really it comes down to the planning commission and the governing body to make that determination. I think we heard the other day that you as a group are the individuals that'll be talked about 30, 40, 50 years down the road, whether you did something right or whether you did something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we're
I
on
will
the
say
tough
that
ones.
Amy has been amazing for planning commission. And for the first time that this lady walked before planning commission, she got chewed up and spit out. And we have had the best CIP before us after that we've ever had. So Rhonda turned it around and started giving us an amazing CIP. But Amy has been a true gem coming in and taking care of us, so.
I'd like to say that
Go for it.
the code needs to be worked on now versus later. We brought this up at the last couple
Yeah.
of meetings, the M1, M2, M3.
Yeah, the
commercial,
zoning, yeah.
But also the residential, because we
Mhm.
found out at the last meeting that, Chuck, you missed this, the RP1, it could be approved for that, but then they could put in a slab home without us even knowing. So it's part of the permitting.
On
process.
RP1, they should still,
No,
we
it's-
have the plans, right? So it's only the above grade that we have
It's
control?
Not in the code, so the
Okay.
planning stage, they could just, we didn't know that until just recently.
Okay.
And I think we can develop, one of the things we've talked about internally is when we're working with developers, we're putting together development agreements now.
This is new, by the way. We haven't really done this in the past.
Term sheets, so we can address some of these, maybe not every single situation, but, yes, there's things that, as I've been here for 4 years, I wonder why roads weren't widened by new subdivisions or sidewalks.
Or a pool, it wants to be a dog park now.
So those
You know.
are being addressed internally now, and we're trying to catch all those to have them, that we don't have to deal with them in the future. Because what's gonna happen is 15 years down the road, we're gonna have to go back and fix all these things that should have been done 15, 20
That's
years
right.
before.
I mean, those are the same things we've been talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
That, why do we have this?
Yeah, why is this not
But
happening?
I can't stress enough how that, you really need to, especially industrial.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for 6 to 12 months, and you really need to change that code, and add in the light industrial, medium, and dense industrial, and maybe with the, commercial overlay. It's so crucial to get that code changed.
So code-wise, we're kind of waiting on the bigger cities to do the work for us, just because we don't have the big engineering departments and kind of code departments that they do. And so they kind of run as a group that we can jump on and take kind of what they used to. So that's hopefully that's this year, mid to late year is kind of the hope for that. Our hope was to do them side by side with the comp plan. I think zoning we can get ahead of, and I know Ian's working really hard on that. That's one thing I tasked him with right away. But the code wise, I know we're doing some changes. We did some recently, but the big changes are going to happen once we get confirmation from those bigger cities that are kind of doing all the hard work, so that we can figure out what it is we want to keep and take away from those new code books, and then move forward with it. But zoning is where we probably need to address some of those issues you're talking about. So that'd be good to talk about with the comp plan, I think, when obviously we need to probably address those together, but go for it, Chuck.
Is a question for Lane. Is there value in us, kind of mimicking a Lathes approach with a unified development ordinance where kind of everything is together?
What do you mean?
UDOs are pretty common everywhere.
Yeah,
And that's technically what we have.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
But we don't publish it as that, though.
we publish as the unified zoning ordinance, but yeah, it's effectively the same thing in that it'll have development standards, landscaping, kind of just the general development process and guidelines, but the building and residential, that code section is usually kept separate. So even in cities with UDOs, they've still got the building codes themselves separate from the
Right.
development ordinances.
But then a lot of times they include things like development guidelines and such that I don't know, other than the comp plan maybe, but it's probably too specific for the comp plan.
We can do like a Vision Webster, like how Overland Park does Vision Metcalf.
Just like area plans specifically.
Yeah.
I wrestled that for like 5 years.
Oh, Spencer's gonna jump in here.
Yeah, hi, sorry for being late. No, and I will
Now
just
the
say
fun's over.
One,
Spencer showed up.
yeah, give me all your food left. One thing to be cognizant of is it's harder to change zoning codes than other areas of city code because state law makes us run it through as a public hearing, and there's a delay. And not that we want to create a system where the governing body can willy-nilly change everything as much as they want, but we do want to ensure that there's the right flexibility on what's a zoning code where we're following state law, doing public hearings, and what is it, our building code, some of our design standards, where we need the flexibility for if things change, we can get to them quickly. Or if we see a development coming that we didn't think about before, we're like, oh, this question's being posed to the city for the first time in the city's existence. We don't want to, you know, a publication 20 days before hearing, and then we have one planning commission meeting a month, and then there's a protest period, and, you know, that's a 45 to 60-day process sometimes. So there is a concern. You don't want to dump too much into your uniform zoning ordinance and your subdivision regulations.
Yeah, I think there's different places we can do it to be more limber.
I agree with that, Spencer, because you're just basically saying, let's keep it wide open to maximize the flexibility of what might come our way. Whereas I like the idea of maybe putting more definitions and requirements around it so that we're guiding what we get.
But we want us to have the guardrails, not other people. So that's where the flexibility for us to make that decision is more important than to control future councils or whatever it is.
Sure.
I think we need to leave the flexibility there for who was elected to do that instead of being too, I mean,
Yeah.
then you're kind of taking away choice at that point where that's what we're here for, is to make those decisions.
I think that defines
So,
identity kind of,
yeah.
like those overlay districts. Like, we don't want pre-engineered metal buildings on Webster
Yeah.
like we have now. You know, we want nice brick facades and.
And we can have it more specific for certain areas, I think. I think that's definitely appropriate.
Yeah.
Where we say, hey, this is an area that we want to be really strict on. But I think as a overall arching decision, if there's a new concept of neighborhood that comes in and we're so strict that
Sure.
they have a 90-day turnaround time and we can't make a decision because we have all these things, all the hoops we have to jump through. It's not really, we're not going to be, so we have to look at a couple things, right? So we want to be attractive, but we also want to be easy to work with, but we don't want to lay down for anybody. So we have to find that happy medium there. We don't want to stick ourselves to where we're not easy to work with too. So there's pieces of that we have to be careful with.
I'll give you a quick example that happened recently. So Allison just took through a change to revert to a prior code provision for, what was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
APW stream water standards. If that was something that was in our zoning code, we would have published it. We would have come to you. We would have waited 14 days, assuming you pass it. We would have taken it to governing body. And during that period, there'd be a weird gap where the city was going back and forth 60 days apart on different types of code provisions. So that's one of those examples of, it was nice that we could take that to governing body fairly quickly and that developers weren't in this limbo of straddling that line. So we're not encouraging the city, Chad, waking up one morning and deciding, you know what I feel like is skyscrapers.
Yeah.
But we are, yeah.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, which, yeah, he brings up to me all the time. But we are encouraging that flexibility for staff on some of those things that we need to be able to bring to the governing body fairly quickly.
We're at 6:50 already. We got to move on. This is the first of a couple, I think. We're going to have to set this up again. I like this. Governing body didn't get to talk nearly enough. I'd really like to get them more involved too. Is there anything you guys need to say before I move on? Anything that you'd like to bring up on this particular item, comp plan?
As far as the comp plan goes, my concern is always making sure that we've got a very clear and easy to understand vision to send out to the community as a whole. Comp plan's been a huge, I've lived here for almost 10 years now, and it's something that everybody's talked about. We don't have this, we don't have this. We always get told it's getting worked on. So even if we can get something that's not exactly the way we want to see it individually, but as a group, as we can come together and agree on something at least to get it out there and to get it published, I think that's important for the city as a whole. It's important for our constituents, the people that we all are trying to work really, really hard for. So as much as we can do to communicate to Ian, to each other, it's going to make this whole process move faster. So I like that we did this, and I hope that we get to do it more.
Yeah, and we can go back and forth forever and never make a decision. I think we're at a point now we got to make some decisions, even if they're not great. And then we make a plan to say, hey, we're going to revisit every 5 years or every 10 years, whatever it is. And they can be smaller revisions going forward. All right. Vision and goals of the city council. If you watch city council meeting, you probably, if you watch the work session we did last month, most of the things that came out of that were, thanks Ian, were basically parks and trails, comp plan, codes. We talked about some charter ordinance changes. Was there anything else I missed that we talked about as far as that goes? So those are things that we're going to be working on that'll probably be coming to you. Obviously, a lot of it's tied to the comp plan to begin with. Did you have any questions? Did anybody watch that work session or attend it that had any questions about what we talked about during that portion? Sorry, I'm kind of running through it because we were out of time. But
I guess most of what I heard, because I was at the meeting, were really projects. I didn't really see vision or objectives.
I think
you guys talked about.
that was that was basically the first one. We'll do another one there. Project wise, we have some projects that need to happen so that we can create a bigger vision, in my opinion. There's some things that haven't been addressed and we need to make sure that those get, there's certain projects that have been out there that never got to a finish line. We either need to figure out if we're going to do them or not. I think it's part of that. And then from there, the vision portion is going to be the comp plan. I mean, that's the major one. So if we can do that, then that'll give us a little bit more, but vision and goals, it's probably more goals than vision. Vision is really just what goals do you have, and the goals are going to be certain projects that we have. We're going to have some committees we're going to put together. You all are welcome to pitch in whenever we figure those out. I think we're going to try to do economic development, parks and trails, and then we'll probably figure out some other ones depending on what governing body members want to do.
Can I have a real quick question on the
Yes.
trails? I think it was at planning commission, I can't remember, if it was planning commission or just somebody brought it up. Are we out working and reseeding is not right,
Surfacing?
yeah, some of the trails that have gone poor?
That's one thing that Jacob talked about. He's going through and basically going, and he's supposed to bring us back a report on what ones can be worked on and what ones are kind of going to be tough. What happened is a lot of them got put in. Jacob, you want to speak to that? Because I know.
Maybe it was the sidewalk meeting that I heard that.
I think we brought it up at that one because Jacob was talking about the trails. Yeah.
I heard it sounded
Yeah.
sidewalk, something.
Yeah. The trail portion, you want to touch base?
Yeah, so that's, there are a number of trails in existing subdivisions that are in disrepair. We don't always have the ability to get in there. Either there weren't easements granted, either they're private trails that aren't public, so that's a limiting factor in some cases. Other cases, there's just not enough room. When the subdivision was built, there weren't any homes and it was wide open. They had no trouble putting that 8-foot trail in there with fences right beside it and trees grown up. Now, 20 years later, you can't get a paving machine in there to redo it. So those are some of the challenges that we have, but that's not every situation. There are some that we can get to and we can fix. And so that's what we're trying to go through, is identifying where are the opportunities that we can get in and make those improvements, and which ones can we not. And knowing that ahead of time, makes all of us better.
All right, cool.
So follow up on that, when we get a plan, how do we know that we're not creating that same problem for you again?
Yeah, that's the other part, and Lane kind of touched on it, is we're learning from our mistakes, and now, for example, the 8-foot trails, 10 foot is our 10 foot wide is our standard. That 2 feet is critical for whether you can get dump trucks and large heavy equipment in there or not. We ensure that if there are trails that are intended to be public, that those are in a public easement, and that all of that is spelled out. So as we've encountered those problems, we can't necessarily go back and fix the old ones, but it does highlight for us what changes we need to make going forward.
And we have meetings internally with Jacob Public Works, Allison Engineering. We have outside consultants that we work with. So a lot of things that weren't done 20 years ago, that should have been, or I won't even say should have been, they're being done now, to help ensure that we don't fall into those same.
We can't go back and fix what was done, but we can try to repair and or move forward appropriately, yeah.
Just asking how do we.
So yeah, so going forward, we're doing the 10 foot, you know, all that kind of stuff, so. Sorry, we got 2 minutes, I wanna make sure you guys start on time. The last thing was planning commission discussion, pretty much it was just gonna be kind of a, what do you guys need from us? We don't really have time to get into that, but we can, like I said, I'm gonna try and set another one up. Is this all a good time? Did this work for everybody as far as 6 before your meeting?
Sure.
I tried to make it as easy for you all, we're kinda here all the time, but you don't plan around it like we do as far as being here more often, so I wanna make sure it's easier for you. Only thing I'll say is, I appreciate all of you for what you do. You know, try to remember, like we talked about, big picture. Let us worry about the finances. I know that's been a thing the last year or so. A lot of times we worry about some of those things like the infrastructure. We're gonna deal with all that stuff. At the end of the day, if it fits within, let's make sure we get all those things on board. I like how you figured out the RP1 portion, because that's something I would have never really probably addressed. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm really looking for personally out of you all. So I appreciate it. It's 6:59, so I'm gonna go ahead and, we don't need a motion or anything. I can just adjourn, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn us, and I will get, another one on the calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Don't move your bag on me.
Okay, well,
I'd like to call the meeting to order of the February 5th Planning Commission. And we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Ms. Dobson? Mr. Earhart?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Aravalo?
Here.
Ms. Crevier?
Here.
Mr. Sly?
Here.
Ms. Squire?
Here.
Mr. Morse?
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of agenda. Everybody got a chance to read those?
I move to accept as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay. Citizen participation. Do we have anybody that signed up? Nope. Anybody that would like to speak to the planning commission? Seeing none, we'll move the agenda forward. Approval of minutes, November 6th, 2025.
I move that we accept the November sixth, 2025 minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Abstain.
Six,
01.
01. Approval of minutes, January 15th, 2026.
Move that we approve the minutes.
Why do we have to approve
This is
November
January
and January?
Because they
November
missed last
and
month.
January.
That was,
We didn't approve last month's.
We didn't have a December meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and then last month.
We didn't approve November.
Oh, that's what it was. They weren't on there. Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot that they weren't on there. Okay, okay. Sorry, guys.
No, it's good.
do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay.
Abstain also.
Two. That's
5-0.
4-0. Is it 4-0?
Use 5.
5.
502.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
First item on our agenda for discussion is application for final plat for Fox Hollow. Second plat.
Perfect. Good evening. I'll be presenting application FP 25-16, the second plat for Fox Hollow. The Fox Hollow second plat consists of 56 single-family home lots as well as 4 tracts and approximately 19.41 acres of land located at 207th and Ridgeview. This represents the second plat within the Fox Hollow subdivision, which was approved via preliminary plan in August of 2023. Between the approved plan and this application before you, there are no changes in lot count orientation. The lots themselves are between 48 and 80 foot wide.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. Yeah, the lots are between 48 and 80 foot wide, ranging between 8,000 and 17,000 square feet approximately in size. Services, water will be provided by Johnson County Water 1 and sewer by the city of Spring Hill. Access to this property will be primarily off 207th Street to the south via the north-south road located kind of on the left side of your screen, as well as to Ridgeview via Newcastle, which will connect up to 205th in the first plat. So that'll kind of connect out to the east as well. So with that, because there's no changes between the approved preliminary plat and the plat meets all of the standards of development, staff recommends approval for this application. I'll now stand for any questions. Thank you.
I was thinking that R1 was a minimum 70 foot. Has that changed?
For the width?
Mm-hmm.
It has not. However, this would be approved via the original preliminary plan. So those standards were set forth back in 2023. for this specific application.
Trying to remember. It's been a while, I've slept since then, so.
You started looking at me. I've slept.
I'm just trying to remember why we approved that if it had minimum less than 70 feet for the if it was R1.
Let me check. I believe this is RP one. Yeah. Is it straight?
No, it's
Is it RP one? Yeah,
So it is RP1?
I believe so.
It says RP1 on the
Yeah.
Then if it's RP1, I have no problem with it, but if it was R1, that was what my question was.
Yeah,
front
no,
of
that,
my packet, it says RP1.
Okay.
yeah.
Now, I don't know, I don't have a computer in front of me, so I don't know if there's something else that's showing on plat that's in front of you that says R1.
I think I've just kept hearing R1, but I could have been missing the P part.
Planning Commissioners, just looking at the first page of the Planning Commission staff report, it says current zoning is RP1 planned single-family residential.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sweet. Now, on this parcel, you only show one entrance on 207?
That's correct. There's an additional access.
Another entrance on the first plot, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's via Newcastle, which connects up through the first plat and out to the east.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Real quick, I'm gonna get a definitive answer on the zoning, just so we have a. Is it a mix? Okay. Trying to pull up our plat here, or our zoning map specifically. I'm sorry, our internet's not wanting to work tonight. Yes, it's zoned RP1. It's a mix of R1 and RP1, but the specific property is RP1, so that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval of application FP 25-16 Fox Hollow Second Plat, final plat to the Spring Hill governing body, including any conditions as presented in the staff report.
Second. There you go.
Got a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call starting at the left.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote. All those opposed? Nobody else. Okay. Next item. Announcements and reports.
The biggest one here is to meet Mr. Mike, our new community development director. So, but first, I lied. There are three. Not quite yet. So from the January 8th, 2026 City Council meeting, there was approval of the final plat FP 25-10 for Wiswell Farms 4th, and then no agenda items for the 12th or 22nd City Councils, special and regular, accordingly. So with that, yeah, say hi.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Planning Commissioners. Just haven't had a chance to meet all of you yet. Look forward to doing so. Look forward to working with you moving forward on a lot of different projects, the comprehensive plan, development projects as it comes in. And a little bit about me. I have been a planner since 2005. Started in a suburb of Denver, about the size of Olathe, and then moved to Kansas City in 2016 and worked for the city of KCMO for 2 years as a development liaison, development concierge, helping people get through that very complicated process there. And then I went out to Blue Springs, where I was the assistant director and then eventually the senior director of city development. So
business licensing, building, planning, GIS, all sorts of functions over at Blue Springs. So I'm excited to be here. It's a great time to be at the city of Spring Hill and look forward to working together. Happy to answer any questions.
I understand you also have a background in economic development.
Yes, yeah, at Blue Springs specifically, and at Kansas City, did a lot with economic development, promoting the city, promoting development within the cities, working on incentive projects, really streamlining processes and timelines to make those cities and really attractive for development. I believe customer service can be a distinguishing factor and give us a competitive advantage over our neighbors who are also trying to promote their cities for development. But if we make, Spring Hill a city where people want to do business and are, enjoy working with our city staff, even though they won't always be told yes that they can do something, then that gives us an advantage in working with some cities who may be more difficult to work with and that don't really have that kind of open arms approach to recruiting businesses and new types of residential development to the city. So yeah, I'm very excited about all the different opportunities. There's a lot of different types of housing developments all around the country that are making their way to the Midwest that we haven't quite seen in the Kansas City metro. I think some cities in the greater metropolitan area have dipped their toes in some of that, but it's only going to continue to get more unique as the housing choice and housing supply and how people get creative and being able to do that with the ever-increasing costs of infrastructure and land. Spring Hill is in a great position because there's a lot of land, and in some of the more established cities, the only land that's left is the land with a lot of difficulty to develop. And so I think we're positioned very well for continued success moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you're gonna find that most of the discussions we've had have been looking at how do we do different kinds of community developments that also provide for more affordable kinds of opportunities for people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Will you be joining us at our meetings?
Yeah, I will be at every meeting, and my I can reach out to each of you and give you my phone number and email address. Please feel free to reach out at any point with any kind of questions, as you would have done with Amy or with Ian or with staff in the past. My primary purpose here is to give staff the tools to be able to do their job, but also be a source of information and a resource to all of you as you serve in your functions here at the city.
Thank you.
Please, it would never be a bother. Reach out anytime. All right, thanks.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions? Yeah. Lightning fast meeting.
And March falls the week before spring break, right? We're okay?
Yeah. The
You
12th.
still celebrate spring break?
You bet. I got them grandbabies, you bet.
We'll just do this meeting at the beach.
Yeah.
That's not their request.
Okay.
Oh, so it's the, okay, I'll be here. Perfect.
Anything else, Amy? Nope. If not, have a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I moved it.
Meeting is adjourned.